Hello, my YouTube name is DogeCat225, but you can call me Caleb for today. Since a couple of days ago in my school, a new policy pretty much shadow dropped on every student. That policy is no phones allowed, ever, which already sounds iffy at first glance. I guess it helps classrooms, but every student's phone just not being allowed ever? It sounds harsh, and the deeper you look into it, the more awful it truly is. Now, why do I want to make an entire video going over this phone policy and post it publicly on YouTube instead of only making a petition and making posters? Well, I know other students in other places also struggle with the same thing, and even if this attempt at pushback fails, I still want to motivate others to do what is right, along with showing the school that students have voices too. I also made a petition, but I'm obviously not going to link the petition since it's not a public channel, and I don't want to quite literally dox myself for fun, along with the idea of keeping random people online away from a more personal town thing. However, if you're in my area, you'll know where to find it, whether it be from some of my friends or someone's Instagram or posters. My goal is to reach 400 real signatures. Now, let's get this started by breaking down the policy itself and why it threw me off guard and made everyone disgusted. Now, what is my school phone policy? The new policy that has been started is that there will be 0 phones or headphones allowed within the school, from the time school starts to the time school ends. Phones and headphones have to be stored in students' bags, not their pockets, along with being entirely turned off. Smartwatches have to always be in airplane mode as well. In case of a crisis emergency such as a lockdown, students are allowed to use their phones. If students are caught with their phones, then they will get their phones taken away and given back to them at the end of the day if a parent or guardian is contacted. If their phone keeps getting caught, then parents will have to come to school to pick up their phones and will have a disciplinary infraction set on them. A disciplinary infraction is something that slowly stacks on you, giving you worse and worse punishments each time. You'll get lunch detention, then more lunch detention, and then a suspension. The policy is so strict for a purpose. That being that it might not be enforced that well, so it's bell to bell and 24/7 no matter the purpose, expecting the bar to hit their real expectations of just students having an easier time learning in the classroom. However, letting the policy ride out over the past couple of days shows that this policy just isn't going to hit at all and will be forgotten in a week, which is one of the reasons why it is proving to be pointless. Teachers that already enforce things enforce it. Those who don't, just don't. Speaking of it being pointless, let's get to the exciting part. Why is this policy a bad thing? Well, there are various issues at hand. The main issue you'll hear from most students is the lack of contact with parents. This lack of immediate contact is able to cause many issues, since there are a lot of things you need to contact your parents about during a school day. I have plenty of friends who need to know how to go home after school, since most students here have broken homes and need to know which parent will pick them up, if any at all. Students also can be warned ahead of time if they're going to get pulled out of school and prepare accordingly, whether it be taking a pop quiz in math early or taking some of the later schoolwork in the class for homework. Sometimes a student needs to contact a parent so they can leave school, or just what if something like a family emergency happens where a parent needs to get immediate contact with the student and that can't happen? We'll just go to the front office and use the phone there, forehead. So instead of sending your parents a quick text or walking into the hallway to call your parents, you now have to ask the teacher to go down to the office, where the teacher can just deny you right then and there, wasting more of your time, spend 3 minutes walking to the office, ask the office, and then finally use the phone to only call your parents, and you then have to spend another 3 minutes walking back to the classroom, wasting a lot of your time that could be spent actually doing the work necessary in that classroom. Some of these issues also aren't just made up theories to make a narrative. I've actually gone around my school and gotten a couple of interviews from both students and staff and plan on getting more in the future. Unfortunately, however, most staff interviews has to be anonymous, or in their exact words, their pay will be slashed. Hearing that from a teacher is just actually crazy. But yeah, it's a harsh truth they have to face. Although my purpose of going around the school is to try to not put words in other people's mouths that may not hate this policy and may just like it. However, most of the people I chatted with on and off camera dislike the policy, for both good reasons and more brain-dead ones, like, I won't play on iPhone. My first interview quite literally was with a teen who turns out needed his phone so he can make plans and hear about emergencies if they did happen.
Hello.
Hi, I'm here with
Alex Simone. So what's your opinion on the new phone policy?
I think it is horrible. It is a horrible phone policy. I mean, it kind of just takes away what like kids do in their free. Like, I have a whole thing now where I have to schedule my day like an entire day before, and if some like sort of emergency comes up, then I need to go. Like, my parents need to call through the office to reach me, and they might even ask for a reason, which it's none of their business. Which I think is a huge like breach into like student and like family like personal like privacy. It's just not good. It makes challenges of where we have all this new technology that you're meant to be used to just not be used.
You hear that? They're even trying to pry into his personal life just because they have to double check somehow that this emergency is one. The other issue that I and others have seen is that you can't use your phone anywhere, at all, ever. This means you can't have phones for places like the bus, lunch, or in the hallways. If they're seen in any of these circumstances, they will be confiscated. Which, if school is supposed to be a direct pipeline to work and prepare you for work, why can't you use your phone on your lunch break like a real job? If I'm on my commute to work, I can use my phone in transit to help pass the time. Why can't it give us real expectations if the point of high school is to start prepping you for the real world? Another thing that I found intriguing about this phone policy is how useless it is truly in retrospect. It's already been a thing for years that if a phone or any item you are messing with is distracting a student or multiple students around you in a classroom, you take it and punish them accordingly. Some teachers will also ask you to take out your earbuds during lecture time since it can be disrespectful to them. I've already been in several classrooms that have a no phone policy where if you bring out a phone, you will be warned and then have it taken until the end of the class. Teachers also can just call security to have you come be taken out of the class if you don't comply, and I've seen it happen firsthand plenty of times. And this is before the actual phone policy where no phones ever. So since teachers are already able to, and more often than not, do take cell phones, why is this policy a thing? It's more of a teacher's fault if they cannot control their teaching space properly, and yet all students at mass get punished for this issue. One final issue I want to bring up is the harshness of the rule. If you suddenly get caught with your phone a couple of times, you will be treated the same way people who have done literal drugs at the school have. This aggressiveness of the rule can ruin many innocent students' backgrounds. If a student who is in honors classes or in on student council pulls out their phone a couple of times, they will have a permanent stain on their record now. Now I'm going to go through and shoot down some of the arguments I've heard people who are all for the school policy say. Since I've heard quite a bit of arguments from people who are for this. We didn't have phones in our day. Why can't you go without it? Why do we suddenly have to go back in time? Inventions are made for a reason, to help improve and simplify modern life. We can walk everywhere, can't we not? So why don't we make just driving every car illegal entirely due to people getting hit by cars? It's an argument that doesn't make any sense because we are part of the future. We are in the present and we shouldn't have to live in your past. It will help students focus more in the classroom. No. A classroom where a teacher is already letting students sit on their phones beforehand isn't suddenly gonna become a huge attention grabber for every student since phones aren't allowed. Students aren't magically just gonna behave in the classroom and focus on a lecture because of the new policy. Respect for teachers is earned, not randomly given. Classrooms that were already handled poorly before the school policy will continue to have the same thing happen. Along with the issue of the phone policy being so harsh you can't listen to music, making it harder for the average teen to focus on actual work they may need to do or even help control their emotions. Music can be essential for work, and music choice varies from person to person. Some teachers can't or don't want to make just a random playlist for the classroom just to help students get in the groove and get in the mood to work. It will help teachers be able to teach the classroom more effectively. This idea is asinine due to the simple fact that teachers can get their pay docked and be fired for not taking a student's phone, making things even harsher on teachers than things already are. I've seen and had plenty of teachers who just don't want to be there anymore and look like they're on their deathbeds because of how miserable it can be to teach a classroom. Now you're making it so teachers will have a harder time taking care of their families and living their lives. if even one phone manages to slip by them. The door is also opened where students who want to get back at a teacher now have an easier means of doing so by just telling a lie of, "Hey, everyone uses phones in so-and-so's classroom," and the teacher at hand could probably be punished accordingly for this. Whether the lie is told up front or while conveniently passing by the principal, it can just make getting rid of teachers easier. It also doesn't help the fact that it wouldn't matter since you either already have a good classroom or a bad classroom. If a classroom is awful, it isn't suddenly going to get better because of the fact that phones are gone. Students are still going to act out in class and be nuisances, and it's their job to already handle them. It will decrease the amount of cyberbullying. This just speaks for itself. I was shocked when I saw this. It sounds like a weak straw man argument I would bring up to shoot down, but the school board is behind that. They must have tacked this on feeling like a big brain genius. Ah, yes, because there are no phones in school, kids can't get cyberbullied in school. This has to be made. To try to not be a meanie weenie jerk-faced bully like they may think I might be. But no. Just no. Cyberbullying can and will still happen. It can happen online at home. Since phones can and still will be used at home, cyberbullying happens more at home than it does at school. Now, the main point to be made. What can be done to change the policy? The ideal thing is to just remove the phone policy entirely. However, I know that the idea of it just being removed the same month it wasn't stated is a difficult one to achieve. All that needs to be done is there are better ways around it for students who require their phones so they can talk with their parents. Allow students to ask teachers to text or call parents. Make it so that they and their parents have to sign a form for phone access during school. You can even make it a $20 phone pass so people can pay for access to their phones so they can still use their phones to call their parents. Since some schools want to act like, or kinda just are, mighty broke. Earbuds also shouldn't be included in the phone policy due to their actually helpful nature. Studying help and help focusing on an important test that can make you pass or fail a class is insanely useful, along with the ability to actually listen to videos teachers assign without having to awkwardly blast it out loud to the whole classroom. Also, make the phone policy less harsh for students and teachers. Hell, reward teachers for keeping the classrooms clean instead of deeply punishing them for things that may just slip by them. Teachers already hardly make enough money to get by, and having that income be nearly deleted can make a lot of lives worse. On the student side, being able to get suspended for just trying to use a phone is a wild consequence, to say the least. It can ruin many students who don't have a track record of problems, and now suddenly have the permanent stain of a suspension on their files because of this phone policy. Now, I want to do a little theory crafting, and try to discuss how this all could have started in the first place. Since I've heard around the old watering well that it was creeps taking underskirt photos of girls, making this policy first ever be had. But I haven't been entirely sure, and it's difficult to find info about the origination of this policy. If anyone can help me find out why, that would be appreciated, and you can comment it down below to give myself a little shameless plug. However, if perverted photography is the case for all of this being here, then a juvenile correction facility is probably a better solution than punishing every student for fun. The only other main thing that doesn't seem so outlandish is the issue teachers can have with grabbing students' attention in a classroom. However, that's a teacher issue. Teachers not using their resources wisely to punish bad students and promote a healthy classroom space is something that I often see. Although a good classroom space is something that can be achieved. A teacher who cannot hold their teaching space is someone who shouldn't be teaching. There are several ways to get a hold of classrooms and get students interested in learning, and if you cannot get control of your students with bribes, threats, or charisma, you shouldn't be there teaching. I've been in several classrooms, both smart and dumb, with teachers that can hold a classroom up fine with zero hiccups. The opposite is also true. I've seen teachers that can't hold their ground against a student who calls them fat, and end up listening to music on their AirPods the whole class. So why are seemingly insanely bad teachers able to get into classrooms? Well, the issue is that no one wants to be a teacher because of the low pay and the high effort required to be one. So the bare minimum for teachers is being hired, since no one wants to be a teacher. If the industry had any sort of respect for the people quite literally raising parents' children for them by paying them well or paying off all their student loans for getting a teaching contract, we wouldn't be here today. All in all, the phone policy isn't good. The idea is an alright one, but the execution is harsh and will get out of hand. Students will and have suffered more in their day-to-day lives due to this policy. This policy can also make things rougher for teachers, which is one of the main parties this policy is trying to help. This isn't even talking about the other issues at hand, where most classes don't have enough work for 80 minutes of class time, leaving you with 30 or more minutes sitting around and twiddling your thumbs, as well as TA classes along with other classes being simplified down to staring at a wall simulator. If you enjoyed my off-kilter video, like and subscribe for more stuff like this in the future. Thank you for tuning in, keep your head up, and have a good day.